You're listening to Dumpster Diving with
Janice.
and Jane.
Okay, I said it twice. Don't look at me like that.
There was nothing coming out of my speakers.
Okay, and I'm only reiterating that because the people watching on YouTube are going to be like, "Wow, why did Jane look at her like that?" So I had to make sure everybody else understands.
Well, no, because they won't hear your voice.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I'm right. You're wrong. Moving on.
You know what? How about you go sit over there and sip your tea?
You know what? I'm calling older sister rights, and I'm right, and you're wrong. Moving on. Okay, hey, hi. It's
Hi.
been a minute. We're gonna post this, and people are gonna be like, "Where the f have you been?"
Well, that's a great question. And boy, have we been places? I
We've been
don't know.
places. We've been busy. We've been
You've
busy.
been busy. You've
We're
been
gonna, here's
well,
what we're gonna pretend. Let's all pretend. Everybody at five listeners, are you listening? We're gonna all pretend that we took an intentional break before kicking off the summer season of dumpster diving.
we sure did. You know what
We
we were
did.
doing? We were spending time with our children.
Yes.
We were feeding homeless,
Regrouping.
all of the
Yes.
board's work. We really weren't. We were stressed out working and everything else, and it was an unintentional shitty ass break. And I'm so sorry, you guys.
I know. I know. I am sorry to our five listeners. I'm
I
not
am
sorry
too.
to everybody else.
Rose,
Rose, we're sorry.
we are so
Deeply
sorry
sorry.
because your Saturday cleaning has not been the same.
It's true. It's true. So anyway, but now we're going to jump right in.
Yeah,
And, we have all kinds of fun things to talk about.
we
Um,
do. We do.
and, kind of catching up. And I think maybe it'll all kind of blend together, right? The catching up and the things. And does that make
Uh,
sense?
it's going to totally make sense
Yeah.
because it's summertime, guys. And you know what
It's
that means.
summertime.
Our kids are home if they're school aged.
That's right. Everybody feels it.
And
Everybody feels it.
the videos and the reels on Instagram are hilarious right
So
now.
freaking funny.
Hilarious. And I just, I know that everybody's been talking about it over and over, and you hear the song like 5 billion times a day, but I can't talk about how much I love Kendrick Lamar's Ain't Like Us. And I just love that man. And um, the lyrical genius he is, and he's from LA where I work, and so it's a big deal and all the things, and I eat up every second of everything that I see online, and it's everywhere.
Oh
It's
my God,
everywhere.
that's hilarious.
Everywhere, and it's so good. It's so good. So that's my summer 2024. It's
I
the
love it.
Ain't Like Us summer. That's what it is.
All right. I love it. I love it. I
I
love it.
am loving every
Well, and we're full on now. Like it's July, so everybody's out of school. Like from the end of May to the end of June, some people are still in school, some people are out of school.
second.
Like you said, everybody's out of school. The kids are at home. So a focus of our conversation today is going to be around like teen summer, right? Like having your kids home for the summer at different phases, right? Because you and I have one, our youngest going into senior year. You have one going into high school for the first time. You have one going obviously into her second year of college, but she's
Yep,
home. So you have a young adult living with you.
I do.
Um,
And it's
and
interesting.
so what are all the things, right? Everything from, ways for them to be spending their time this summer to how you're setting boundaries different based on different ages and how you're following through and all this stuff. So yeah, that's basically what we're going to talk about because I know that everybody's in the midst of it. And hopefully some people have a really great kind of well thought out plan. For some of you, that plan has already imploded. And so that didn't work out well for you.
Right.
And for
But
some
here,
of you,
we can recover. We can recover. We
we
can
can
recover.
recover. Exactly. It'll be a recovery episode. And for some of you, like it's just completely incoherent and all it's off the rails. And for some of you, things are just kind of going and your kids like sleeping, till 2 o'clock every day. And even though they're not doing anything terrible, that's driving you insane. Right. So
Right.
like no matter what category you're in, this episode's going to be helpful for you, I think.
Yeah. And I feel like this summer so far for me personally has been chaotic, but not so much for my kids, but just for me because, we have so much going on at work and
Yeah.
events and different things. And so I'm in LA a lot.
Yeah.
And so for me, like summer is always hard for me because I do work so far away from home. I'm not home as much.
That's right.
Kids are,
Yeah.
and so I got that mom guilt going on, like,
Yeah.
okay, like I got to spend the night down here because I have something early the next morning. And, I'm dating too. And so I'm
Yeah,
trying to get some me time in and, spend time with, a potential
more
whatever,
than friend, more
more
than
than
friend.
friend. Yeah, mate. I don't know.
Ew,
Um,
no, we're not calling them a mate.
no,
You
that's
won't be mating.
no, well, I can't. So, let me think about a name.
More
Anyway,
than a friend.
so a friend.
There you go. A
And so,
special friend. No, that's creepy. Never mind. I take that back.
all right, now we're getting,
Mommy's special friend. No.
no, we're not saying, no, I don't know. We're not even talking to the kids about it. How about that?
Okay,
We're,
that's
I'm
even
doing my
better.
thing. I'm doing my
Even
thing.
better.
Okay.
Even better.
So, um, so trying to spend time with, somebody that I met and super cool, and so trying to balance everything
Yeah.
and be all the things for everyone is a lot. And
Yeah.
actually a little breakdown about it yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you? All right, everyone. We're gonna pause this week's episode for a therapy session with Jane, and here we go.
No, I really don't need a therapy session because I was talking to Lindsay about it and stuff like that. But,
Never mind. Jane was talking to her best friend because her sister's not good enough. But that's okay. That's again different
well,
episode.
I
Different
mean,
episode.
I knew I'd be talking to you today. I needed you yesterday, but I figured you were busy.
You didn't reach out. I'm just putting that out there. So that's okay. That's all
Don't
right.
be
Lindsay's a
jealous.
good.
Don't be
Look,
jealous, my friend. I've known her
Lindsay.
longer.
Lindsay's a good stand-in. So
Lindsay is an amazing stand-in, and she puts up my 12-year-old angsty ass when I.
well, you know what? And we haven't even posted Lindsay's episode. I think we're gonna hold
Oh
it now.
my god!
We haven't. That's okay
You know
because
what?
we're gonna hold
You
it until
should.
she's coming here, and then that
Yes.
way
And we
it'll
can
be a
take
whole.
pictures, and we can do all the
Exactly.
things. And we should probably record. We will probably record another episode because
I'm thinking it's gonna be a fireside chat
totally,
episode, right?
totally.
With all of us
So
by the
stay
fireside. All
tuned,
right. I
y'all.
love it.
Stay
So you
tuned.
had a breakdown, but you're okay now. You're better.
Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm
Okay.
fine. And it was, it's like it's that whole thing that we've talked about before where, certain things trigger you and you revert back to that first time.
Yeah.
And I am very like in my current age and mindset and everything. I got to tell you, I'm really feeling myself. I'm really like I'm in that like you can't tell me I'm having a bad hair day, fuck you. Like
Right.
I'm really feeling myself. And so when you get like an inkling of whatever or something, like something is off, you're just like, what happened? And it's like I haven't felt that in a long time, in a very
Right.
long time. And so I
Yeah.
was just like, ooh, I don't like this. But I was talking to her about it, and I think it's really I narrowed it down yesterday, and it's that whole aspect of having something that you really enjoy, or an energy or a feeling or whatever, and then it's
Yeah.
like pulled out from underneath you.
Oh, sure.
And that triggers other behaviors,
Of
like
course.
where you kind of just like, okay, scale back a minute. I need to watch
Yeah.
now. I have to be on the guard, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And it's like it so naturally happens. And I had that happen recently. And I was just like, it's so weird because, I talked to the person about it and they're like, well, why didn't you say anything at the time? And I was like, you don't understand. It's survival mode.
Yeah.
It's like it in my brain, that switch flips.
Yep.
And I'm not outwardly different, but
Yeah.
my mindset is like, whoop, like it's totally
Yeah.
different, totally opposite of what was just going on. And
Yep.
now I'm just planning my escape.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what I'm doing. And so I'm going to adjust and adapt and do all the
Yep.
things I need to do to get the fuck out of here,
Yeah.
And so, and he was, like they were like, I don't, okay, that makes sense. And I was like, what you don't know about me and my trauma is like, there's been 4 times in my life where I was like, okay, this is where I die.
Yeah.
This is it. And
Yep.
so any inkling towards any type of like, I need to be on guard or anything, and it wasn't anything traumatic.
Yeah.
It was just like behavior.
Yeah.
It was just like, whoop, like it went right back.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to Lindsay about it. I said, I really hate that I do that because I feel like, but it's like so instinctual.
Yeah.
I was frustrated with myself because I'm like, I don't shut down, but I'm just like, at this point, like the wall is
Yeah.
here and I'm looking like Wilson from Tool Time, like howdy ho neighbor, like you can see this, but that's about it,
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, and it really like brought up some stuff, and it was just so simple, but
Yeah.
learning that about myself and like really narrowing it down and stuff like that was really cool. So
Yeah.
My
Well, and you're like you can see everything only from here up, in the fence image, which I love. And what popped into my head is the whole iceberg analogy, right? Like you're seeing just a teeny tiny little part of me, and I also like, and I think women everywhere are going to relate to this like switch flipping thing because and I don't know that it's uniquely female, but because I can't be in a man's brain, I can't say that. So, but I know for many women, right? That's the thing. Like we will go and go and go and go and
it's
then be
done.
done.
Yep.
And
And
that's
that's
flip.
me
And
to a
once it
T.
switches or flips, that's it.
Yeah.
Right? Like no
And
going back from that.
and it's recovery mode now, because if you really want to, if you truly aren't like that, but maybe whatever circumstance, environment, climate, whatever the hell,
Yeah.
and you want to prove to like really take it to heart, and this person that I was talking to really took it to heart and was like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, blah blah blah. Not the right person for me,
Yeah.
but I appreciate the fact that they were like, I am so sorry, and I'm
Yeah.
sorry that I made you feel that way. I'm like, you didn't make
Yeah.
me feel that way. It's my own shit. I
Yes.
own that. But that's what's going on here, and I needed to
Yes.
like really process it before I could even talk about it, because I didn't know
Absolutely.
what was going on. And
Yep.
so that's a big thing too, is like, saving arguments, and not freaking the fuck out, but
Yeah.
like, okay, so I'm very proud of myself for being like, okay, cool, I know what's going on. I'm gonna keep,
Good for
doing
you.
whatever, but
Yeah.
also being able to not brush it off and actually tell them what happened. Because
Exactly.
it's something that I would have totally brushed off and not even like
Yeah.
paid, like whatever. But this person's a really good person, and they want
Yeah.
to, they wanted my time, and I'm
Yep.
just like, you're cool. But this freaked me out,
Yep.
and so, but just being able to talk to them about that and stuff, still not the right person for me, but very good person,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you are a great person to have in my life and to talk to,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You're very understanding and stuff, but it's just not there.
Yeah. And that's okay, but you're making me think of one more thing, and then we'll shift back
Yeah.
to we'll shift and move forward with the topic. But it's that I learned from my first marriage that one of the things I had to own from that is that a behavior that I had that wasn't fair and certainly contributed to where we ended up is that that kind of suck it up mentality.
Yeah.
Like
Not talk about it.
we would have a disagreement, and I'm not a yeller, screamer. I'm not going to do any of those things. It comes from my own stuff in the past, and I'm just not going to. But I would take that to the extreme and just be like, well, I guess I'll have to deal with that. Guess I'll have to live with it. I'll just have to
I
live with
did
it. I'll just have to
too.
live. But always in my own brain and never out loud. So I didn't give him a chance to
Ooh, rebuttal.
because I made a lot of
Yeah.
assumptions about if I say it out loud, he's going to say this is going to happen, and I would play it all out in my brain, and then be like, what's the point? There's no reason to waste that emotional energy. I'll just deal with it.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that coming into my second marriage, right? Like, Joe and I, as you can imagine, early on, had lots of conversations about what worked in previous relationships, what didn't work, and things that we owned that we knew we would have to be different about, right? And that was one of them. And it took me a while, like, because
Yeah.
even early on in our relationship, I found myself going, well, I guess, and then it was like, nope,
Nope.
that's not okay. Say it out loud. How do we say it in a way that's calm? And lots of times it's coming back to it later, right? Because in the moment you can't be calm. And again, I'm not going to yell and scream. So
Yeah.
anyway,
No, that's the same mentality I've had, because you and I
yeah,
both grew up in similar households where you just weren't listened to, and you
no,
don't have an argument. So there's no point
right,
in arguing, because then you're going to get hit or something else, and
right,
whatever.
exactly.
So to avoid all of that BS,
Yeah,
we just suck it up. And
exactly.
and that goes to like my whole like, nope, I'm done. Like that switch hits,
Yeah,
and before I just would have been like, I'm not even talking to them about it. But you know what?
yeah,
I'm like, I need to change that about myself and let
yep,
them be aware. So dating, so I'm like on a little dating app. So talking to people and like dating and having those conversations has really helped me with my realizing when I need to say something. So I've
oh, I
been
love that.
very like direct and blah blah blah. Like I'm not going on billions of dates or anything like that,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of people talking to me, so I'm like, I'll talk
yep,
to you for a minute and just say hi, whatever. So anyways, it's been very interesting, and a learning experience for me on
yeah,
certain things that trigger me, and just being able to talk about it and say
that's
something.
right,
So I've been
that's right.
practicing that a lot. It's been,
I'm so proud of you. Oh, look, you gave yourself a thumbs up. Nice job, nice job.
yeah.
Well done. All
So
right, so shall we talk about teens and summers and all the fun things?
Yeah, not the middle-aged dating mother drama.
I think that a lot of our audience appreciated that. So,
I
there
think
you
they
go.
did too, and I'm hopeful that I'll be telling some juicy stories soon. So,
I love it. Okay. I can't. So an episode just
Saga.
about that. That's going to be fun. Okay. I like
Yep.
it. I like
You
it a
might even
lot.
have an opportunity to meet
All right.
me
All right. All
in the
right.
upcoming weeks.
And the
Like
teaser has been laid down, everyone. The
the
teaser has been
foundation
laid
has
down.
been laid. So,
All
all
right.
right, let's talk about our kids.
So, I was harkening back through some of my own like social media stuff because I have really put the parenting stuff I do on social media and stuff on hold because of all the things. There's just so much, and I'm trying to do a
Stan.
few things well versus a lot of things. And so, but I was going back through because I want to repost some of the stuff that I posted last year this time because I know that, as we're like getting into the heat of the summer, so to speak, quite literally right now, like I said, your kids are at all different kinds of spectrums, right? We have kids going into senior year, kids going into high school, kids who are already in college, but they live at home. So how do you like manage all of that? And I know that some of the things in terms of your high schooler, right? Some of the qualms becomes about like, okay, my kid's waking up at 1 or 2 in the afternoon every single day. They're not doing really anything, right? Except going out with their friends, which isn't a bad thing because our kids need that break after
Social.
a year of school. But how do I ensure they spend their time productively, right? Like, because there's the rat race of they're going to graduate in a year, 2 years. Like, how should they be spending their summer in order to make progress toward that whatever's going to come next, whatever their goal is, right? 2 year, four
Right.
year, go right into the military, whatever it is. Like, how do they hone some skills? And so part one for me is about that, right? Like, how are we thinking about our teens' time over the summer? So I'm thinking that I'll talk a little bit about that older teen in terms of going into junior, senior year, and you can maybe talk a little bit about obviously going into freshman. You can talk about all of it too. We both can
Yeah,
because we've both had kids who've
I have
done
all
all of
those
it.
phases. Yeah.
So one of the things that or a couple of things that I always recommend is that, I think first off, we have to give our kids a break, right? It has to be okay for them to sleep late some days. It has to be okay with them to spend some days all day with their friends because again, they've been doing the work of school, which we've been telling them since they were kindergarten is their job all year long, right? So giving them that time I think is really important. But yes, I think it's also really important to be thinking about like how are they honing some skills this summer as well, right? And so a few things that I want to throw on the table that way you can react to them and then I'm sure you're going to add to them are if your kid is old enough, right, getting a job. And I am a big proponent of getting the job the earlier the better. I know that comes because, and we've talked about this, I think I had my first off the books job when I was like 12, right? Like
Right.
a job that wasn't babysitting, which I did obviously as well, right? But at a local company, like it was like a landscaping company, right? My mom worked there, and so I would go in and like water the plants and stuff, and I would get paid to do that. So getting a job, and I know there are some people who are of the school of thought, no, they're only going to be kids once. I don't disagree with that
I don't
thinking
either.
completely, but I do know that they're only going to be kids once, but there are skills that they have to learn to be really high functioning adults right out of the gate so that
Right.
they're not living in your basement until they're 30, right? And some of those skills are the skills that you can't teach them at home that they need an authentic experience around, and a job can do that for them, right? So it can be any kind of a job, and I know it's a scary idea them getting a job, but I'm going to use our 16, well 17 as of today, 17-year-old as an example because she's had a job for a year. And so here in the state of California where we live, 16 is like you can get a job at 15 with a worker's learner's or
14.
working permit or whatever.
Yeah.
But she got her first job actually right before she turned 16 last summer. Um, and the skills that she has learned, she's a greeter at a restaurant here. The skills that she has learned there are skills she cannot learn at school, she cannot learn at home. And frankly, we could probably teach them, but it would be a battle. So why not let people in a professional setting teach them, right? And I
Right.
will say the biggest skill she has learned is how to deal with fucking asshole people, right? Because she, as a greeter, she gets everything from people who are super kind and super nice to people who are the biggest assholes you
Angry.
can imagine, and
Yeah.
she has learned to deal with that as a result, right? So that's my first thing is get a job.
Totally. And I'm going to echo all of that because I mean, I remember my very first like real job. I was 10. I was 10 working at a little like my parents like every Friday night we would, when my dad got paid, we would go and get like something when we
Yeah,
lived in California. Before and after that, never. I mean, we
yeah,
were eating at homeless kitchens and stuff, but
yeah.
When we lived in California, we had a little bit of money. So Friday nights we would go get dinner together, then we'd go to the movie store, and us kids would pick out a movie, and then my parents would go behind the curtain and pick out their movie, and then we would get ushered out to the 24-foot long travel trailer for the night, and they would have their fun in the house. So
Nice.
that was our Friday nights. But there was this little pizza place that we would go to, and it was called the Leaning Tower Pizza, and it was a little Greek family, and they just fell in love with us, and they loved me. I was blonde
Yeah.
hair, green eyes, cute little girl, and so they absolutely adored me. And for whatever reason, we started hanging out there, and then I started working in their kitchen and serving
Yeah.
tables, and 10 years old running the cash register.
Yeah.
And that taught me so much, but it also taught me like unconditional love and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like they didn't know us from Adam, but they took me in as like one of their own. And my mom
Yeah.
was so eager to get rid of us all the time. She was like, "Oh, well, here you go. See you in two
Right.
days." But um a little sidetrack, but it's funny how it ties in. Long story short, somebody close to that lives in Oxnard, or Ventura, has some birds, and he needed some help with
Yeah.
training a bird. And we connected on Facebook. We were talking. It was through the dating app, but we connected on birds. I was like, "Oh, there's not
Yeah.
many people." So we started talking, and he was telling me about his birds, and then we started talking on the phone. And he's having trouble with one of his cockatoos. And I was like, "Well, I have a lot of experience with exotic birds and stuff like
Yeah.
that. I'd be happy to help you." So I go over there, and he was like amazed at what I could do with this bird. I
Yeah.
was trimming all the bird's nails. I was teaching him how to do like all the things. And it really got me thinking. And I was like, and then he's like texting me the next day, "I really need your help. She's still not coming out to me, but she was amazing with you. She loves you, like, can you please help me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I'm like, like you said, like our jobs are so crazy right now and
Yeah.
everything else. And like everything else that we're doing is kind of like, how do we handle it? And it really dawned on me. I'm like, I need something that I don't need my brain for.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
natural. And I learned those skills from my mom
Yeah.
because we were exposed to so many animals. We always had exotic birds. We always had, and then we had the little hobby farm, and I was in 4-H. And it's these skill, how to nurse animals back to life. We have 2 kittens that Jenny and I have nursed back to life, and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And I'm going to take her with me. I signed up for rover.com, and I'm going to start doing
So
pet sitting on the
smart.
weekends.
Yep.
And I'm like, it brings so much joy to me to do that kind of stuff. And then I'm like, bring her along. She loves it.
Yeah.
And then it teaches her that skill too. And this is all shit that I learned from my mom during this
That's right.
5-year period where she was like human.
Yeah.
And we got to have animals and all that stuff. So it dawned on me. I'm like, what a great way to spend some time. Like
Yeah.
doing it overnight in a house in Malibu,
Yeah.
to watch a dog, please.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Free air,
Well,
but you know what I mean? Like,
I
just
love that.
taking that and
Yeah.
bring her along. Like, she's gonna love the shit out of that, and she's gonna learn so much too.
Well, and as a reminder to folks who don't remember or aren't tracking, right? Jenny's your rising ninth grader. So she's in that age where okay, she's too young to get a job, but you as the parent can bring her
Yes.
along. And what I love about that, Jane, is like is that I think that oftentimes I'll speak for myself, right? Oftentimes we have this mentality of we don't want our kids' lives to be as hard as our lives, right? And I think it's really fascinating. I think generations are different. I'm not even going to say many generations have that, but I think our generation has that to some extent, and the generation before it even maybe. And yet here we are also like constantly you hear this messaging that the current generation is the young generation is completely unable to navigate the world, can't read a map, can't do all these things for all the different reasons. All those things, by the way, generalizations and all the things that every generation has said about the generation that comes after it. But my point in saying all that is I catch myself, and I'm paying attention to it more with our youngest, even though it's true of some of the older ones, but I catch myself doing things because I don't want to make, I can just do it. It'd be easier than asking her to do
Right.
it. And then realizing, like you said, but so much of what I am and who I am now and the skills I have are because I had to do them early on,
Yeah.
right? And so we're not actually doing our kids any favor by making their lives easier. Yes, it's nice to be able to like ensure they know they don't have to worry about a roof over their head. They know they don't have to worry about where their meal is coming from, etc. But outside of the basics, it's a good thing for them to, even if they come along rolling their eyes, even if they come along reluctant, it's a good thing for them to come alongside us, right? Another quick story along those lines is we have a really great high school friend that we both had back in the day. And we were in Virginia recently, and we spent a couple of days with him and his youngest son, who is also going into ninth grade. And for a couple of years, like years now, probably more than a couple, his son comes along with them. He's like a landscaper. He works for a landscaping company. He's like a supervisor. So he goes from job to job, etc. And his son comes along beside him. And because of it, his son can take things apart and put things together. His son can do basic little construction projects around the house, etc. at 13, 14 years old that most kids would never be able to do. A, because some of their parents don't know how to do it because they never had to do it. And B, even if their parents did, they don't bring them alongside them because they don't want to burden them, right? They want their life to be easier. So I think that's a great example of things that we can do for our kids during the summer or whenever, right? And the other one I'll throw at that idea is volunteering, right? Like, if your kid's too young to get a job, the examples that Jane and I just gave aren't, tangible for you, then what are some volunteer things they can do this summer, right? And volunteering can look like, being a mother's helper for a neighbor, right? It can be helping take care of an elderly neighbor. It can be something more organized with an organization or what have you, right? Again, don't let the hurdles stop you. Don't let the whole it has to be the perfect volunteer thing get in the way of doing something, anything, right? As a way to spend some time.
Yeah, it could be bringing down trash barrels for your neighbors, stuff like that. I just sent you a picture of Jenny.
I see it. Yep.
Yeah, she was trying to give the kittens medication and they kept scratching her. I'm like, well, this is how you hold them. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier. And I was like, ooh, Dr. Doxy, because she wants to be a vet. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to teach you. She gave them all of their medicine. Like I had to help her at first, but like I had her do it all. Like these are kittens that she wanted and they were sick and took them to the vet, got the medication. And then it was up to her. They had fleas. She got rid of the fleas. We got free flea collars and did baths and
amazing.
And I think it's been a really cool experience for her because she's watching them grow because we got them at 5 weeks and now they're like, almost 3 months old, and so they're bigger and 2 little Siamese cats. We always sing the little "We are Siamese, if you please."
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
So cute.
I love it.
And they're so cute, but it's teaching her how to care for an animal and that she doesn't need me to do it, and so she is she's taking such good care of these cats.
I love it.
You never know there's a litter box in her room. You would never know, and she plays with them and she gives them exercise. So it's teaching her how to care for somebody other than herself.
That's right.
And that's what I love. And just like I've said before, good old Dr. Pole, I truly believe in that. So when it dawned on me and I have all this experience and with animals and exotic animals and stuff, I'm like, well, duh, why don't I just do that on the weekend?
Yes.
Get to go around and pet other animals.
And like you said, it brings you joy.
Yes. It's so much fun. And I'm so good with animals. And so it's like my friend had us a pit bull that's very aggressive.
Yeah.
And I met up with them and he's like, oh, I need to take my dog on a walk. I'm like, okay. The dog runs right up to me and starts licking me. And he was like, what? That's never, ever, 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 ever happened.
Right.
It was like, oh, it's your energy. I was like, oh, yeah, I have good pet mom energy.
Pet mojo. I love it.
Oh, yeah, she was licking my face. She was all over me. And he was like, this isn't the same dog. Funny. So anyways, so I think that's
I love that. Those are some ways, right, that we can think about our older, kids, our teenage, if you will, kids, and how to help them use some time constructively. But I will say this, right? If it's been a few weeks since school let out and or every summer before this, your kid's been able to do whatever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want it, and you see that perhaps they're not gaining any kind of skills and there's things that you feel like they could do that would be productive, you're not going to just wake them up today and say, I've changed the rules and I've made a different decision, right? But rather, you're going to start today when you're listening to this episode saying, okay, this has been on my mind and hell, refer them to the podcast episode or not, whatever. And I want us to talk about how we're going to think about the next 6 weeks of summer, right? Because I want to make sure that you learn some skills, et cetera, and then introduce the thinking, right? And then come to some agreement about what your teen might do and make sure you create space for their ideas, right? Your ideas are not always the best ideas. And we think they are as parents because we think we know what's best. But your kid actually formulating their own idea is also a really important part, right? And it doesn't have to be don't turn it into what do you want to be when you grow up? Now let's tie it to that kind of a thing, right? Lots of our kids have no idea what they want to be. And that question
And that's
freaks
okay.
them the hell out because they don't know and they think they're supposed to know. They don't actually realize that most people their age don't know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But more of what are you interested in? And I think your example is a great one, Jane, in terms of like, what are some things you're interested in? What would make you happy? What would bring you joy? What would, what are some things you could do that would actually, you would be happy about doing, not feeling like you had to do, right? Um, and then in a later episode, we can talk about like, especially the job piece, right? Because there have been so many things that come along with your kid having a job, especially before they're 18, in terms of how you help them think about money, how you help them organize, right? And really quickly, I'll give you a little story. When Cam got her job, just like her siblings before her, right? We started a savings account for her, a checking account for her. We set boundaries. We said every paycheck goes into savings, and then we move over a certain amount, right? She doesn't have control over that to spending. We agree on what that amount's going to be, et cetera. Because in her job, she also gets tips. So it's like,
Wow.
technically your tips are yours. Like whatever you get, that's all yours. So from your paycheck, what will you get? And all the things. And the funny story is that her birthday is today. And so yesterday, Friday, whatever it was, 2 days ago, she's like, I have an idea for my birthday gift. And we were like, okay, let's hear it. Great. And she said, instead of you guys buying me a gift, I want to be able to spend a full paycheck, like basically go on a shopping spree and spend a
Oh,
and we were at first we looked at each other and we were like, let's get this straight. We don't have to spend a dime. You just want permission to use your own money.
we love this idea.
So we said, how about this? Whatever we decide isn't going to be instead of, because we're still going to give you a gift. So period, next paragraph. And then we just came to an agreement about, because we knew it's summer, her paychecks are bigger. We're like, you're not going to spend, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But let's talk about what's real, especially because, she wants to get a new phone because her phone is beat all to hell. It's like, let's talk about options. And then we just landed on a sum, right? And for her, it was like, oh, this is amazing. Because it's like more than the usual, she usually has like $50 in her account for spending, right? Or whatever. But all of those things. And we just said, listen, like, we know that for the last year, it has been us saying this is what has to happen, right? And that's going to continue into this year. However, we want you to start thinking about it in terms of like what's important to have happen so that you're set up next summer going into whatever you're going to do, assuming you're going to some kind of college, so that because, she also just got her license and that's a different conversation, right? And so it's like you have to buy gas, all the things. Anyway, so those are some things that you can think about in terms of your kid and your teenage kid, especially. For the summer. So now I'm thinking that it's a good time to talk about transitioning into like boundaries, right? Because I know you went, I'm sure with Chase, right? Us obviously now with Cam, we've been through it before with other kids, but like now that they have a license, now that they and or they're just a little bit older, right? It's the whole how you set boundaries in terms of where they can go, what they can do when they, all the things. So what are some kind of lessons, if you will, learned from your experience with Chase?
So with Chase, it's different, because she's 18, she's going on being 19.
Yep.
And the relationship I have with her and everything is like, look, you're an adult.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, if you get into trouble, you're 100% responsible for yourself.
That's right.
So go do what you're going to do.
Yeah.
However, make good choices.
Yeah.
Because there's no mistakes. You're making choices out there and you're making adult choices. So keep that in mind. And just communicate with me. That's it.
Yeah.
Just I don't want to worry about you.
Yeah.
I'm not a big worrier, but that's my kid, so I'm going to worry about her.
Yeah, of course.
And so, and she's always been really good at communicating with me. Yeah. I mean, I can't even go anywhere without her going, you said you were going to be here, but I see that your location's here. What are you doing? Turn that shit off right now.
Okay.
I'm in a work meeting.
Ignore the word spa.
Or
work spa.
Whatever.
I love it.
You guys having another adult child in your house that thinks mama, get ready. Get ready. And if you're single, get really ready.
Get really ready. They want to be all up in your business.
Woo, I don't know who's the mom now. At this point, no. So we talk about everything. Like I have a very special relationship with my two youngest daughters because I realized the choices that I made with my two older ones and in certain situations, and really have like done my very, very best to not make those choices again, in
Yeah.
relationship and stuff like that. So we have such a great relationship that we talk about everything. And I mean, obviously she's calling me out about not being where I said I was going to be. And
Yeah.
I'm like, look, get off my back. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so we communicate, and she's so good at communicating. Like, hey mom, and it's even, hey mommy, I'm going to
Yeah.
Sam's house and we're going to the movies, so I'm probably just going to spend the night. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's
Right.
telling me these things. And she's gone to some parties and even had a
Yeah.
drink, and she stays there, and she's being really
Yeah.
good, and so I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So with her, I don't worry about her. She's very focused on her schooling and
Yeah.
work. She's been working her butt off, so like, more power to you, sister.
Yeah.
Now Jenny. Jenny's 13. I'm in LA 3 to 4 days a week. Like, she's home alone a lot right now. And so
Yeah.
she's living her best life with her pets, her video games, and her snacks. Like,
Yeah.
she's loving life right now. However, I need to get her out of the house more. So that's
Yeah.
another reason for the little side hustle. And she wants to go to the gym. So it's actually getting me to like really be organized with my time,
Nice.
make sure that she's getting out too. Because last year, we had our brother here and
Yeah. Yeah.
sister-in-law and two dogs. And so it was
Yeah.
like a little bit easier for me to be away, but it's very much so on my mind. So for me as a single mom, making sure that I'm dividing my time evenly
Yep.
and being very intentional. Like, yesterday I got invited to go do something after I was done. I was working yesterday for a little bit. And I was like, no, I need to get home to my kid. Aren't they 13? Blah, blah, blah. I go, yeah, but I've also told her I would be home at a certain time.
Yeah. Exactly.
That, and I'm not going to change it last minute. So no, I'm not going to go do that. I'm going to go be with my kid.
Yes.
And so that's where me as a parent, and maybe some of the other single parents out there will, kind of listen to, is like, just be intentional with your kids and show them that you care, that it's not summertime for everybody just
Yeah.
because all the fun things are happening, and that they're still important. Just because they're not in school doesn't mean that they're not a priority in your schedule. I
Exactly.
think that's a big thing for her, is like, she feels like she gets forgotten a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
like, You're not forgotten, babe. Like, you're just so quiet too, so it's like,
Yeah.
so it's like kind of forcing yourself on them and saying, okay, this is what we're going to do, and not give them as many choices, and just say,
Yeah.
this is what we are doing.
Yeah.
So with the bedtime thing, we actually had a conversation, because she stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning the other morning. And
Oh my God.
oh yeah, because I was getting up, and I was like, girl. So I said, just like every summer, and this is something that I've done for the last several summers with her, like, you make your own schedule. I
Yeah.
really don't care unless we have something going on. I go, but 2 weeks before school starts, we're back on track.
Yep.
We start easing our way back into getting back into school sessions and
Yeah.
doing sleep schedules and stuff like that. Right now, I'm one of those moms that's just kind of like, you do you,
Right.
with, but they also have chores. Like the other day, I'm
Yeah.
like, you haven't been in this living room for a week, and it looks like you had a party in here. Like,
Yeah.
it's time. And so they both got together and they both cleaned it up, and I didn't
Yeah.
have any problems because I'm not constantly beating over their heads. I'm just like,
Right.
all right, it's getting gross. Let's go.
Right.
So I'm a lot more relaxed with stuff like that, because it's not
Yeah.
so serious, to
Yeah.
me. Other people is different, but to me it's not so serious.
Well, I think a couple things I'll kind of double tap on, right, is like you said, giving them a chance to organize their own time and see what happens, right? And we actually, I guess it was this past school year, right, Camp's junior year, that we kind of finally said, we're not going to tell you when to go to bed, but
Right.
we are going to tell you that the moment you're not following through in school,
Yep.
then
It's done.
because as a rising junior, right, we knew like in 2 years she's going to be doing this herself. So we can only dictate for so long, right? So here are the expectations. And if your grades aren't where we've agreed that they'll be, then we will come back to this conversation and we will say here are the time boundaries, right? Or what have you. And she navigated the whole year, right? Without any issues at all. So mostly she was asleep by midnight, but every once in a while we heard her up after that. But it was kind of like, okay, we said we're only going to intervene if her grades don't reflect what we agreed on. And that hasn't happened. So we're not going to jump out of bed right now and say it's 2 a.m. You need to go to bed or whatever it is.
Right. Right.
So I think that, so I want to double tap on that. And I'm going to double tap on the second part where you talked about the chores piece, because a lot of us are working. A lot of us are working either remote or in person. And again, I think that's a space where, in the past, sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, I used to hate it. My mom would leave, to go to work in the summer and leave our list of things to do, and I just hated it. But again, I realized it taught me so much, right?
Right.
So, my lists from my childhood were probably overly exorbitant, right? But having a routine and saying, listen, here are the things you're going to be responsible for this week while you're home all day and we're working, right? And maybe during the summer, that's more than it is during the school year, right? That's perfectly okay because again, they need to learn how to clean their own bathroom. They need to learn how to help with communal areas in the house because they contributed to them being dirty. They need to dot dot dot, right? So,
Right.
so I'll double tap on that as well. And then the last part that I will share is like in terms of, it's a little bit related to summer, but it's also related to like how, our kids, how we navigate the different phases of their lives, right? So our youngest just got her driver's license. So that happened this week. And also we just yesterday she just had a big like pool party with like 20 kids, right, for her birthday.
Fun.
So she had the chance to do that. It's the first time we've done that since we lived in this house. Lots of fun, etc. But in both instances, Joe and I had to have this conversation where we realized, um, it kind of sucks because all the other parents don't necessarily follow the rules. And so as a result, you get to be the parent who's the asshole. So then I just said, and you and I chatted before we launched, I was like, that's going to be the next book, Parent Like an Asshole, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't, and the misnomer is that it doesn't mean be a hard ass or or literally be an asshole, but what it means is like follow the rules, right? And what I mean by that, so the driving thing, right? So she gets home Tuesday, she's taking her driver's test, um, and we're adding her to the insurance because with our kids, we pay for their insurance until they graduate. After that, they're on their own. Her mom has a second car, so she's allowed to drive the second car. And so, immediately we've already coordinated with mom, right? This is co-parenting in a divorce that, we're in agreement that, literally on her little paper thing that she has until she gets her actual license, it says, by the way, reminder, in the state of California, your kid can't drive with anybody under the age of 25 until for a year from today.
Yep.
And they cannot be driving on the road between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. or whatever it is. Like there's a curfew, right? And so we had to have that conversation, right? Like here's how much money we're going to pay a month for you to be on insurance. Anything you do, grades, get pulled over, anything that increases the cost of that insurance because you weren't making good choices. Hey, fireworks. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Um, then we have to regroup because we might not be able to pay for your insurance anymore if your insurance goes up because you made bad choices. Sorry, you don't get fireworks. That's the first time it's ever done it for me. So
Mhm.
my point in saying that is then we realized, holy shit, didn't 2 weeks ago she go with so and so, her friend who literally had just gotten her license? And we let her and didn't even think about like we weren't even thinking about
She's
it.
18.
No. And
Oh,
then and I just said to myself, that kid literally has had her license for like a month. And she's not the only one. Many of her friends, like this is not unique to anybody, but it made us realize we're going to be the ones who enforce the rule, right? Because not only, and we said to her, and now what we're realizing is not only can you not drive them, but you can't ride with them either. Whether their parents say yes or no, we're not going to contribute to that, right? And it's really tough because
it puts so
like
many
we
more
get it.
cars
If
on
we're
the
all
road.
going to go to the same place, why should we all spend our gas money to go to the same place? And the
Yeah.
answer is because that's the rule right now,
Safety.
right? And if you
Yeah.
get, so I did look it up, and if you get pulled over, like the first time it's like 10 hours of community service, but a point on your license. Second
Ooh.
time is like 15 hours, but another point on your life. That's where the insurance comes in. So all that to say that was one example. And then example two was kind of getting set up for the pool party, right? And all the what's the food, all the things. And then of course we said, and just go ahead and be upfront with people that there's not going to be any alcohol, obviously. We're not providing any, nobody can bring it. There's like that's gonna be a non-starter. Not a problem at all. Fine, no big deal. And they spent 4 or 5 hours yesterday having a great time in the pool, just being kids and throwing water balloons and all
Good.
kinds of fun stuff without it. But we know there are other homes they go to where the parents do the whole, oh, well, I'd rather have them drink here than be on the road. And
That's where Chase goes.
honestly, whether you're taking my kids' keys or not is irrelevant. In my mind, I think to myself, who the fuck are you to decide that my kid can have alcohol because they're in your home? Like I will never understand that thinking
Yeah.
ever. But my point is all of that is like my last piece for today's episode is parent like an asshole.
Yeah.
Be the asshole who says, And again, none of it was contentious. We didn't have any arguments. It wasn't about being an asshole as in being mean. It would be an asshole as in, look, the rules are the rules. And
Yeah.
these are the laws. And we're actually expected to abide by the laws. And when we don't abide by the laws, there are consequences. So
Yeah.
we're going to actually model abiding by the laws.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like we don't have control over how other people parent, and we only have control how we do.
Mhm.
So we have to do the very best that we can as good parents to
Exactly.
instill all of those things. And that's the funny thing about Chase. I mentioned like, oh well, if she drank, she went to a New Year's Eve party and had a shot of tequila, and that was
Yeah.
it. Every other time there's plenty of drinking going on, but she's always the DD because she's like, I
Yeah.
don't like drinking,
Yeah.
and I'm like, good, that's great.
Yeah.
So it's just something that she's just not into, which is wonderful, but at the same time she makes wise choices and she's there for her
Yeah.
friends. So I'm like, cool.
And honestly, even if your kid is, and that's a whole different episode, right? Like if you, like you said, if you decide, and we've always been kind of like, okay, so when they reach this age, they could have a drink with us, right? Because we also don't want them to go to college and get obliterated for the first time they
Yes.
drink because they've
And
never
then
had anything, right?
yeah,
So
they-
we have always been like, if it's a family only, and if it's this, and if it's like in your home with your family and your own children, do you,
and
whatever that looks like,
and that's
right? Yeah,
cool, you know.
exactly. But the second somebody else's kid comes in, like
Right.
I just will never, and I know there are going to be people who listen to this who might do that, and then they're going to be offended. And I'm sorry if you're offended. This is my belief system, and my belief system is I should never give somebody else's children the permission to do something illegal. I should never do that. Like it's a profound act in my mind. And guess what? It was easy yesterday. There was not like push, pull, oh, people might be sneaking it in, oh, people, right? Like they just came and had fun because they understood the boundary ahead of time and it was a non-issue. Now, will I find out 5 years from now somebody slipped a White Claw in? Probably, right? Like I'm not stupid. I'm not
Yeah.
naive, right?
They're shotgunning
But right, exactly. But by setting the boundary, right, exactly. By setting the boundary, we ensured that people understood like you can have fun without that, right? Like you actually don't need that to have a good time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that's my final bit of advice as we're like smack in the middle of the summer now, because I know that's kind of stuff is happening, right?
It totally
Um,
is. It totally is.
yeah,
And at the end of the day, I guess we can end on this is it's all about communication with your kids, and
mhm,
just being real with them. And that's part of parenting like an asshole is like being very direct and going, hey, here's the consequences of doing this.
yeah,
And here's what your responsibilities are, and here are the repercussions, and here's the
yeah,
ripple effect on me.
yep,
So if you don't want to deal with me being angry about this, let
yeah,
alone the police department or whatever else,
yep,
then just don't do it,
yeah,
because you already know the wrath, like
yeah.
we're gonna talk about it and it's not gonna be cute.
Well,
So
oops.
that's it.
Well, and what I love about you just said is like it's like being super clear, right?
And holding them
Like we
accountable
didn't
for their actions.
exactly, we didn't guess. We didn't say the world's going to end if you do it and you break the law. We went and looked it up. What actually will happen to you if you break the law? And even though you might suck it up and do 10 hours of community service, that point on your license is going to raise your insurance. And what we're telling you, so keeping the Jane version of boundaries in mind, what
Yeah,
we're telling you is not what you can and can't do. What we're saying is if you do, this is what's going to happen. You're going
exactly.
to get a point on your license, and our reaction to that is going to be we're not paying for your insurance because we're not paying more than what we're paying right now. So again, it's that nuance, right? Of like, it's not what you can and can't do. It's here's what happens if you do this. Here's what happens if you do this. Here's what happens if you do this. Make a choice. Now it's all you.
Yeah, and this is
Choose.
what it's going to cost you.
Oh,
One,
amen.
it's like the trust between all of us.
Yep.
Two, money, lots
Mhm.
of it, because not only are your rates going up, but now you're paying for all of it. And I mean, Chase is learning that right now. Her insurance is like 300 and something dollars a month.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of
And you're
money.
committing to paying that for the next 12 months. That's well over what, $5,000?
Exactly.
So, at that point, it's like I'm investing into you learning how to drive. Don't fuck
Exactly.
it up.
Yep.
Don't
That's
fuck
right.
it up.
Exactly.
Just be careful, mind your P's and Q's,
Yep.
follow the rules, and
Yep.
you will be $5,000 richer at the end
Exactly.
of this
Exactly.
year.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. But that's my investment because I love you, and these are the things as a parent that I agreed to do.
Exactly.
And really at the end of the day, um it's about keeping your word to your kids too, and to
That's
the
right.
people around you. You know, yesterday I was being kind of like not interrogated, but like questioned about what I was doing at work. And so I was at work yesterday, and we'll just end on this. I was at work yesterday, and one of our team members was having a birthday party for her 1 year old daughter, and this is something she asked to do last year. Or like
Yeah.
the baby was 4 months old and was like, "Can I have the birthday party in the tech center?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Absolutely." I was like, "We'll figure it all out, whatever." Well, it's summertime. My team is like stretched to the max. We have 100 kids in our tech center all day long, and then we're doing extended hours for teens, and
Yeah.
we just got done doing an event on a Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, and I mean, it's just been a lot. So I'm like, so we're coordinating, and I said, I'm just going to go down. I'm going to open up the tech center, and I'm just going to hang out with you guys, and I'll close it up, and I'm just going to be there for you. And she
Yeah.
was like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so later on, get home. It's like 11 o'clock at night now because there was a big accident, all that stuff. And I was
Yeah.
talking to my friend, and he was like, "Why were you doing that? Like, you weren't getting paid." I was like, "No." I was like, "I promised her last year."
Yeah.
He was like, "Wow." Like,
Yeah.
I said, I keep my word, like I told her I would do it. It was no sweat off my back, but
Yep.
people remember that stuff,
They do.
and that's the thing is like I keep my word with my kids. And if I can't and I need to adjust, I tell them, I
Yep.
communicate with them and tell them why.
You're
So
transparent.
yeah, just be transparent
Yeah.
with your kids and explain to
Yep.
them, and they understand so much more, and give parents so much more grace
Oh
than
gosh, yeah.
it's just because I said so, or it's the rules.
Exactly.
Teach them how to be
Exactly.
an investigator.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I love it. All right, you guys. So we're gonna wrap it there. Hopefully that's and we're actually gonna get this episode out immediately because our break is over.
Happy
Um,
summer.
exactly. And that way you actually have it for the summer because if we post this in August, it's not gonna be useful. So we're gonna do that immediately. And for those of you who stuck around during our break and show up because we put something out, even though it wasn't as consistent as we had hoped. Thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. You're amazing. And yeah, with that, peace out, man.
Yeah. Bye.